All right. Welcome to the Westward Podcast, live from Las Vegas. We're at the Run for a Million. I'm Devin Dole, your host, and I am joined by a very special guest today. Never done a live podcast before, so this is like what an incredible guest to start with, Mr. Richard Winters of Richard Winters Horsemanship. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Devin, it is a privilege. I've been looking forward to this. I've heard exciting things about you. And so the fact that I get to interview with you is pretty cool.
Well, you're the star here. So you're
We'll see. We'll see.
And if you are familiar with his work, you're about to be, but I'm sure many of you are, because he is an iconic horseman and has a resume that spans from like colt starting to judging to clinics to traveling all over. Yeah, so just very excited. And I know we were joking. You said, "Well, I'm commonly often referred to as Sarah Dawson's dad," but
Oh, yeah. It gets me in places.
that's fantastic. Well, Mr. Winters, if we can just kind of start with a little intro from you, just a little of your background, maybe young adult life. Did you grow up with horses? Where did it all begin? Where did Richard Winters horsemanship begin?
Yeah, you bet. And let me just say it the opposite. Congratulations on your recent nuptials. I met your husband last night. Seemed like a really good guy.
Thank you.
You betcha. So that's a very exciting
Thank
chapter
you.
in your lives. But I'm perhaps not much different than a lot of your listeners. That I was just a horse crazy kid, and maybe in an anomaly, because most of the time it's the little girls and their brothers are doing something else. I have one sister who never cared anything about horses, but that's all I ever thought about was being a cowboy and being a horseman, if I even knew what that was. But we lived in town, and my dad was a preacher. My mother was a nurse. They knew nothing about horses. But I never wanted to be a policeman or a fireman or an astronaut.
Wow.
I just wanted to be a cowboy. So I kind of had to beat it out of the rock. And there was a stable about 7 miles from our house. And I don't know how many bicycles I wore out during my grade school years. I would pedal myself out to that stable and just be the proverbial stable brat. I had no business hanging around there for 10 hours. They had a dude string for $2.50. You could rent a horse and go around this lap of a pasture. And I would plan my whole day around that hour and hanging out there. Day after day and year after year, 10, 11, 12, 13 years of age. Then I started helping the old man saddle the horses and hook up the feed wagon and go feed. And so that was my first exposure to horses. And then in junior high, I got a job up in the mountains wrangling dude horses at a summer camp and got to do that for 4 summers. We were raised in California, got out of that summer heat, and that gave me a little exposure.
Yeah.
In high school, I went to work for a horse trainer there that really gave me my first introduction to higher levels of horsemanship, because I was just kicking to go and pulling to stop. That's all I knew. And so it was during that time in my high school years that I had the privilege of getting on some of those California bridle horses that I really didn't have any business riding. I didn't help a one of them, but it gave me a chance to feel what that could feel like when you pick up those bridle reins and that horse says, "Yes, sir, what can I do for you?" On his hind end to work. It was years before I could ever duplicate it, but that was a taste for me. I went off to college because I thought I wanted to be a rodeo cowboy, not for the academics, but just a rodeo. I had gone to a horseshoeing school, and when we first got married, my business card said farrier on them, and I was shoeing horses. But that's kind of how my youth started, just looking for opportunities and hanging out and working for 25 cents an hour and just happy to be there.
That is so cool. I love hearing stories like this, because what you have built your business into and your legacy into is so deeply cemented into the horse industry now. And for anybody listening, I'm such a proponent of, you don't have to be born to this to find your way to it. And I'm sure there are a lot of people listening that are going to listen to your story and be like, oh my gosh, I could do that. I could go find my local barn and start taking lessons, or, cleaning stalls or whatever. And I don't have to be born on a ranch to make this dream happen. So where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh, absolutely. And I was a pretty focused little kid. I never picked up a bat. I never threw a ball. I was never part of a sports team. But if it had hoof and hair, I was in.
Well, and that's a testament to hard work too. I mean, it's not like you had an easy road ahead of you. You had to put the work in and chase your dreams thoroughly.
Well, I think that's right. There's not too many people in the horse industry that are getting rich doing it. I think there are occupations and vocations that pay better, and so you have to embrace and enjoy the lifestyle. And
Yeah.
if you can monetize that a little bit and actually make a living, well, then that's an added bonus.
That's pretty good. Yeah. What is the old saying? It's like if you want to be a multi-millionaire, with horses, start as a billionaire.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, there's some truth to that.
Right. So when you've taken this journey, you've started at the kind of the bottom in terms of like being the stable hand, and then you've grown your business like we were talking. Where does the horsemanship piece come in? Where does Richard Winters horsemanship begin?
Yeah. I mentioned a little bit ago that it was in high school that I went to this horseshoeing school and that was just a fluke deal.
Yeah.
There was a vocational program that the county was offering for a lot of different trades.
Okay.
And someone said, "Hey, Richard, you can get out of high school at 11:30 in the morning and then go to this horseshoeing class. They will waive your PE for your travel time." So I just kind of did it. Then when I moved away, I realized that I could make a buck or two shoeing horses, and then that got busier. But because of the horsemanship component that I learned from this horseman that I was working for as just a teenager, that was always really important to me. And I think the cool thing was going out around my area shoeing horses. It opened me up to the local horse community.
Oh.
And so here I am, maybe years old. I get around him and I don't ask when I come and shoe him, and we get to talk about horsemanship, and it's time to start that horse. Well, I'll start him. And I used to just lease stalls from a little backyard stable. And if I had 2 horses in training, or if I had 6 horses in training, that's how many stalls that I would rent. And so
that's a good business
the
model.
Horseshoeing deal really opened up doors for training. And then after a little while, it got to be like 50-50, where I would go ahead and schedule my shoeing clients in the morning and get them knocked out. And then whenever I got done, then go home and ride.
Yeah.
But over the years, the training just got a little busier and busier. And then, and we're talking 36 years ago, this clinic thing really began to take a hold in our country. And people got excited about, I could load up my horse and go to this place and pay a certain amount of money, and me and these 15 other riders will ride with this horseman and learn some things.
Yeah.
And people were excited about that. And so I caught that wave early on, and I did my first horsemanship clinic, like I say, 36 years ago.
Wow.
And I don't care how good a horseman you are, you can only ride one horse at a dollars and cents guy in me said, hey, if I could have 15 people in this arena, then I can multiply myself. And so I caught that bandwagon before it was already out of town.
Okay.
And so just to share my brand of horsemanship, and people were so hungry for knowledge.
Yeah.
Because when I was a little kid, and this is almost maybe before your time, the Great Horseman, it was like a secret. And people, they wouldn't tell you anything. They wouldn't say, hey, son, if you just pick up your rein like this, or this is how I get this horse to turn around better. You just had to watch and try to somehow grasp it. Well, now we live in the information age. And you can pull it all up on your phone, and some of the greatest horsemen and horsewomen in the world are anxious to share their information with you.
Yeah.
And that's what the whole clinic thing did. And so that's how I segued from, just shoeing some horses and wanting to do the horsemanship thing into becoming, a full-time horse trainer and clinician.
Wow. This is like you're there, you're trimming feet, and then you've built connection. The clinic model is still very, very hot, right? Like clinics are still very, very popular.
Oh yeah, you bet.
And you've done them kind of all over the world.
Sometimes I just shake my head. And how did this happen? We have had the privilege of, yes, literally traveling around the world, sharing our little brand of horsemanship. My way is not the only way to do it. There's a lot of ways to get this done, but people have invited us to go to almost every continent and share these things that we never would have had the opportunity to do, and places that we could have never seen, or people we never could have met. And so it's just been a great journey for my wife Cheryl and I, and of course our 2 kids.
Yeah,
it's been neat.
Well, and speaking of your kids, you have two very impressive kids. We were talking about their career paths last night. Can you talk a little bit about raising kids in this way of life? And obviously, Sarah is now a legend in her own right in the horse industry. So what was that like? Building this family alongside your business and raising kids in a way that you weren't raised.
Yeah, that's right. Um, this horse thing, it's you either have that little bug in you or you don't.
Yeah.
Maybe there's other things that are like that, but I don't know what it is, because you'll have siblings like me and my sister. She didn't care anything about horses, and why did I care something about it? And so I knew that thing was out there, and so we had two children, Joseph and Sarah. They're only 15 months apart, but there was no way of knowing which one or either of them would be interested in horses. But we were all in on the horse deal, and so these opportunities were presented to them. But I tried to, and I don't know that I always did it correctly, but I knew that, listen, you can't push it on them. You can't force it on them. But listen, we need to learn how to be around the horses. They're here on our place, and we should learn how to ride.
Yep.
And, in fact, when they were really young, I even paid somebody to give them horseback riding lessons.
Really?
My son-in-law, Chris, I love him to death, Sarah's husband, he says, never coach somebody you've seen naked. There might be some truth in that. And so we expose them to these things, and our son Joseph, he can ride, and he can rope a little bit, but you could tell it was never really his passion. And then little Sarah, that's all she thought about, just so focused from a very young girl. In fact, I think she was maybe 12, something like that, 13, and I got bucked off and I broke my collarbone. We lived in a very remote ranch up in northeastern California.
Oh, wow.
60 miles from a gallon of milk. That's how far out we were.
That's a ways.
And so I pulled her out of school and said, you got to help me keep these colts going for the next 6 weeks until they release me to ride again. And that was just right up her alley. And she realized, oh yeah, this is the way to go. I can do my schoolwork in like 3 hours at night in my room. Why am I going to a schoolhouse? And so she just got on that track, and she never looked back. And again, our son, I'm equally proud of him. We were talking earlier that he is a rescue swimmer in the U.S. Coast Guard and jumps out of the orange and white helicopters and saves people when they're drowning.
That's amazing.
Up in Sitka, Alaska. So we're pretty proud of him as well. And you all will find this to be true as things develop in your family. But when your kids are doing well and they've found something that they're passionate about and they're healthy, mom and dad can sleep all right. If the kids aren't right, nothing feels right.
Doing very well.
Just showcasing the reining horses, showcasing the rein cow horses, we're showcasing the cutters, and also a really cool class where it's an invitation for working cowboys who work on a ranch and the horses owned by that ranch, that they can come and compete as well. And so this whole week is just super exciting. There were a lot of cow horse riders that tried to qualify, weren't able to do it. And so for Chris and Sarah to both get that done, we'll be looking forward to cheering them on tonight.
Oh yeah, us too. And the ranching Heritage Ranching Challenge is going to be tonight too. And we're really excited to watch the fence work there. So you talked a little bit about like your philosophy raising kids in this industry. Can we talk briefly about your training philosophy with the horses? If you could sum that up, which I'm sure is very, very difficult. What has been your training philosophy?
When I was a young man and I went to work for this horse trainer, his name was Troy Henry out of Clovis, California, since passed away. A lot of people didn't know Troy because he never showed horses a lot.
Yeah.
He trained a lot of kids. He had this huge business of training horses, selling the horses to families, keeping the kids and their horses in training, had his own tack store set up there. And he was ahead of his time as far as the psychology of horsemanship. And he was the first one to help me understand that there's a mechanical aspect to this, but it's about 10%.
Yeah.
90% is psychology. And if I were to give you just 2 or 3 bullet points, whether you want to load your horse in the trailer or get him to turn around faster or not walk over the top of you when you're leading him back to the barn, whatever it might be, or pick up the right lead, you need to make the right thing easy and the wrong thing difficult. You need to be firm as necessary, yet gentle as possible, and you need to reward the slightest try, all the while working on our own leadership skills. And that's really the answer to just about every scenario and problem that someone would start to talk to me about. My horse is doing blank. What should I do? Now I try to fill in, the blanks for them and give them some practical tools of what to do. But that's it. Be firm as necessary, gentle as possible. Make the right thing easy and the wrong thing difficult. I believe it was Pat Pirelli that years ago coined the term, and it's a good enough term, natural horsemanship. Some people like the term, some people don't. If we got a better word, then that's fine too. But it's presenting ideas to horses in a way that they can understand, because they're pretty amiable creatures. They are not fighters by nature. They really do want to get along. They just want to feel like they can survive the experience, and they will be so compliant and so willing. But when we get in a fight with them in a tussle, it's because the communication is broke down. They don't understand. They begin to rely on their instincts and their prey animal instincts that God have given them, and just self-protective. And so that's what we're trying to work with, is just making it a good deal for the horse. And it's amazing what they will do for us.
Oh, it's incredible and Casey Deary just went. So I don't know if anybody could hear the noise in the background, but it was loud. But it is incredible what these animals do and continue to do, even after some of them have not lived, the most peaceful of lives. They continue to try and they continue to work for us. So I love that training philosophy. And I really feel like that can be applied to leadership or teaching of any animal, including humans, right? I mean, like being a strong leader and just making the right thing easy.
No, that's right. And you can make a horse do some things for a while. You can put enough hardware on him and give him no other options that they'll kind of do it. But you can make us. If we were in a society that had slaves, you could make a slave through intimidation do things. But there's no motivation there, and there's no relationship there. Nobody feels good about what's going on. People, and I draw this analogy a lot because almost everybody in the United States has a dog. People are very familiar with how dogs respond. I see people sometimes treating their horses like they're dogs. And it's a little different, because if you think of a dog, they are a predator by nature. Horses are prey animals by nature. And a dog will put themselves in harm's way to be with their humans. They will. I read a story in Reader's Digest. You don't even know what Reader's Digest is. About a dog that ran into a burning building and pulled out a baby and brought that baby out.
Yeah.
I have never read a story about a horse that ran into a burning building and pulled out a baby, because their mindset is different. They just want to survive. They just want to be comfortable. They just want to feel safe. And if we can create an environment and a training regimen that helps them feel like that, they'll say, I'm on board. I'm good with that.
Yeah, that's good. I appreciate that. They are peaceful animals for the most part. Like you said, they're not fighters. And so they respond well to that kind of treatment. And on the topic of philosophies, I'm going to continue down this path for a minute. Like I said, we're sitting in the Buckeye Nutrition booth, Run for a Million. Let's talk about your feeding philosophy. So I know we both feed Buckeye Nutrition, and my saddle horse is on the Senior Balancer. We've got some young horses on the Grow and Win. I've been a huge fan of what it's done to my saddle horse specifically. I mean, all of them are flourishing on it, but he's a little bit of a hard keeper, and that Senior Balancer's really brought the shine out. What's your feeding philosophy when it comes to like performance horses? Do you feel like they need a little bit different in terms of nutrition than just like your average trail horse, or can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think that it has been a learning curve for me. I think there was a time in my life, and probably all went through this, just throw them a flake of hay and go back to the house, But over the years, I have been riding better and better horses. And I have been asking more of my horses than I have in my entire life. And now that we compete in the National Ring Cow Horse Association, the people that I'm competing against, the nutrition. And if I am wanting to compete with them on that playing, it's been such an honor to come alongside Buckeye Nutrition. Why they gave me the time of day, I do not know. But they have educated me and helped me understand for my horses, how can they not just survive, but how can they flourish? And you mentioned a specific feed that's fitting your horses really well. What they got me hooked up with was it's a supplement that goes along with the roughage that they get, this Ultimate Recovery, because I am throwing my horses in trailers and going 4, 5, 6, 700 miles. I am unloading them, and I'm competing at some of the highest levels in the horse industry. And this Ultimate Recovery has been formulated and designed for those horses that are under that kind of stress and pressure to be able to handle those long trailer rides, that gut health that they need. Last thing I need is to come out the next morning at the horse show and it looks like my horse is colicky, or here it is, the summertime and it's hot and it's humid and we're working those horses. They're losing a lot of fluids, and thus the name of the particular thing that I'm using, Ultimate Recovery, for those muscles to be able to bounce back so that I can compete on that horse again tomorrow. And then because they are show horses and there's someone looking at them saying, how nice a horse is that? Just the fact that they have the rice bran and the flaxseed put such a bloom and a shine on them. So when somebody walks by your horse, man, that is a good looking horse right there. So it's been a good fit for me. And I'm not the guy that's probably going to want to open 7 little containers and mix this and mix that. 2 to 3 pounds of Ultimate Recovery right on top of my hay every day. They're good to go. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, been a great fit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all about that too. Like we're with where we live, we're out in Wyoming and we're kind of in the cowboy world a little bit. We need to keep it pretty simple. And I know I like that it's like this and hay and we're good to go.
Absolutely.
So that's cool. Yeah. Well, you've got such an interesting perspective in the horse industry, I think, because like we talked a little earlier, you do the clinics, you do the training, you've had experience as a farrier, you're a judge, right? And you've competed in so many different disciplines. How do you feel like your vast and varied experience in the horse industry has shaped your perspective as a trainer or as just a horseman in general?
I mentioned when I worked for that trainer as a young man and got a taste of what higher levels of horsemanship could be, but I couldn't get it done myself. But yet I always knew that was out there. It's kind of like if all you ever had was your grandpa's pickup. It had no power steering, had power brakes. But one day you drove somebody's car that had power steering and power brakes. But then you had to go back to your grandpa's pickup. But you always knew, so wait a minute, there's cars that you could just do it with one hand and eat a hamburger with the other hand. Yeah, with air conditioning and power windows. Are you kidding me? So I knew that was there. And once you've tasted that, it's hard to be satisfied with anything less. So as I just kind of limped along in my horsemanship journey, I just knew that that's where I'm headed. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get there, but that's the kind of horse I wanted to develop. That's the kind of horse that I want to ride. And it's been a 40-year journey for me. Sure. And now the scary part is I'm turning into an old man. I'm running out of time. But
well, I don't know about that. But
I console myself. Listen, Richard, I know you got a long way to go, but you're farther along than you were a year ago, 5 years ago. I would be a sad cowboy if 5 years from now, at 67 years of age, I was not exponentially better than I am today, because there's still so much more ground to gain. I think one of the biggest things that have helped me, and for some reason, some people are uncomfortable with this, especially people who are professionals in the business. I don't know if it's a little bit of insecurity or they feel like it might taint their brand or whatever. I have to ride with people that are better than me.
Yes.
I've got to get, and that's not hard for me to do because they are everywhere. And as I mentioned earlier, the information is flowing now and people are not keeping it close to their chest. So I've got to be around people who are better than me. And one way to do that is to throw my hat in the ring in competition, in the Rein Cow Horse events. I'm better than a few of them, and there's a whole pile of them that are better than me. And it just challenges me all the time. And I think what really helped my business model in keeping the clinics going and making myself relevant is in the industry is not just doing horsemanship clinics and helping Susie with the groundwork and helping with the trailer loading and learning rein management, but over the years, letting those people see me step into the competitive world, win, lose, or draw. And again, I think this is where some guys maybe have thought, well, like if I go and compete and don't do well, somehow it'll damage my brand in the clinic thing. For me personally, I have not found that to be the case. If anything, I feel like I can be much more relatable to the people that I am trying to help. Say, I'm just like you guys. I'm just trying to figure this thing out. I got more questions now in my 60s than I had in my 30s. In my 30s, I had it all figured out. I knew how to train them suckers. But now I was like, oh, man, some days I don't know if I could train a mouse to jump in a grain sack. But as this clinic thing got bigger and bigger, there was a segment of the horse community that had been to clinics, and they were kind of asking the question, what's next? I've been to a lot of clinics. I've learned all the basics horsemanship, and they're ready to bump up their game.
Yep.
And so the fact that I was over here competing and trying to bump up my game, then I could come back to the clinics, and we started doing what we call a lot of advancing clinics. And it's like, if you can get your horse to the clinic and you can walk, trot, and lope around the arena in a group, and you can stop and back up, and if your horse will move off your leg just a little bit, you're ready to advance now. And I don't know if our clinic thing would have been near as successful in the last 20 years had I not formatted that way and introduced people to a little more performance, a little more refinement, a little more athleticism in their horses. People are just so hungry for that. And it kept me fresh because I was able to go to a clinic and talk to people about things that I was interested in, the things that I was working on at home, I was now sharing with them. And so, this idea that you can't go out and expose yourself in the competitive world, I don't buy that. And I used to hear too, some clinicians would kind of poo-poo it over their microphone to the group about the horse show guys. Oh, they're just a bunch of gimmicks, just a bunch of horse show guys. I'm the consummate horseman. But in those days, when I would lay my head on my pillow at night, I can read my own press releases and think I'm a big shot, but I knew where my shortcomings were. And I knew that there were guys over there, like right here at Run for a Million. They're down there doing things in that arena that I wasn't getting done with my horse. You can say whatever you want about them. They are at another level. And I said, win, lose, or draw, I'm heading towards that. I'm going to get as good as I don't know how good I can get, but I'm going to try to get there.
Yeah. Wow. Like you said, it humanizes you when people that look up to you, they followed your training methods for so long, they see you out there in the arena trying something new, throwing your hat in the ring, and like you said, win, lose, or draw, that does make you so relatable. And I think people crave authenticity and they want realness and they want to be able to relate to you on whatever level you're at. So I'm sure that was very impactful for a lot of the people that attend your clinics. And then, like you said, offering kind of an advanced level where when you're ready, there is a step you can, if you want, there is a step you can take.
Absolutely. Yeah, you bet. And I think I would be bored with my occupation if that's all I did every weekend was go, help Susie's horse stand still so she can get on. And I will help people with all those things. It always comes up. But it's like, hey, there's so much more that we can do. And you know what? You could be on this straight line from one end of the arena to the other, and you can choose what lead you want to pick up. You don't have to go around the corner and tip their head to the outside and just kick real hard and hope you get the correct lead. There's some things that you can do. And I would say the majority of people that come to our clinics, they're not going to show their horses.
Sure.
But they still want to have a better relationship, communicate more clearly. And Devin, I think everybody's goal, whether it's a competitive horse or just a trail riding horse, if I could just put any part of my horse's body in any given position at any given time, problem solved. Then I'm good to go. And so that's what we're helping people do. Yeah. Working on their communication and leadership skills and taking their horsemanship to another level.
Yeah. And I'm no horse trainer, but it seems like that could apply to about any problem you're trying to solve, is being able to move your horse's body. And we have a very good friend, cowboy friend, who says, never be the best one in the room. And you were kind of talking about that, like you just hanging around people that are at a different level in whatever you're trying to do and constantly be learning, right? Do you feel like that's applicable to anybody with horses?
Absolutely. Again, if I go to a horse expo, or I go do a clinic, I am probably the best horseman there.
Sure. Yep.
On the whole fairgrounds. I'm the very best. And you can live in that little world if you want to, and get to believe in, yeah, I'm a big deal, you know. But then to remove yourself from that, and eat a little bit of humble pie and get around those people who are better, then it just challenges you and pushes you. It can be a little frustrating because like, am I ever going to figure this out?
Yes.
But it's so rewarding to begin to do some of those things that 5 years ago, 10 years ago was unreachable. It was almost like another language to you, but it's like, hey, I'm kind of doing that now. My horse can change leads now. So yeah, when I pick up on those bridle reins, I don't get a busy signal. This horse stays soft in the bridle. And so things that are commonplace now, there was a time in my career, it wasn't happening too much, but it's because I've gotten around people that, yeah, they're doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, you better be pretty happy where you are, because you're not going anywhere else.
That's right. That's right. And what a cool thing with the horse that you can see tangible growth and tangible evidence too of how far you've come and the work that you're putting in. Like, I feel like the horse doesn't lie, Yeah.
No, that is so true. And, I've had the privilege of riding thousands of horses, I guess, in my lifetime. And so I have a broad experience level. And some people, they just got one horse in their backyard, or their family has two horses, but it doesn't make any difference. Whether it's a young horse they're starting or an older horse that the kids ride, all those horses can get a little better if we have a desire to make them better and chip away a couple of the rough edges. And, you're not going to make a Ferrari out of a pickup truck, but they can all get a little better,
That's right.
if we just want to put in a little time and raise our own personal expectations. And then for our horse, raise his expectations or her expectations. Hey, Dobbin, this is what we're going to do today. This is not unreasonable. You're healthy, you're sound, and there's no reason why we can't, lope 3 circles here before we break down to the trot. We can do this.
Yeah, that's right. And you also said raise your own expectations for yourself along the way. That's good.
Yeah, I think so.
I appreciate that. Well, I don't want to keep you too long here. I know you got family to go visit and there's a lot going on, but a couple things to round us out. And I'm going to put you on the spot here for a second. What would you say is a general piece of advice that any horse owner, whether you're here at the Run for a Million, or like you said, you have one horse in the backyard that's partly retired, that you feel like is applicable to everybody when it comes to horsemanship?
Mm-hmm. We could probably make a long list. I bet you've got a list, and I can come up with some things. I'll just mention a couple things here. Number one is, there's a lot of people that they love horses. They have a horse. They whipped out their phone. They can show you pictures of their horse.
Oh, yeah.
They've got equipment in their barn that they use with their horse. But when you pin them down, they're not riding their horse. You got to ride them. That's why you got them. I think you had these visions of saddling them up and going out in the mountains or going to the local gymkhana or whatever. But maybe things happen and the horse got a little out of shape, or he was a little fresh one day. Maybe we got out of shape, whatever it is. But if I was to give somebody some advice, just go out and ride them. Nothing's going to happen until you ride them. Now, if you have physical limitations and you're just at a station in your life where that's not a possibility anymore, then hey, I get it. But there's a lot of folks, it's like, hey, let's ride him. And, 2 or 3 times a month, I bet he doesn't act very good, does he? They desperately need that consistency. Our kids are going to go to school every day. We're going to get them out to that bus stop, and get them to that school 5 days a week, because that inconsistency it's so hard to learn. And so if you have a horse that you're trying to develop and get a little bit better, you've got to find that time to put in that consistent work. So, well, I'll take you to school on Tuesday, and if I get a chance, I'll take you back to school on Friday.
Right.
No, that's not going to work. And then maybe the other thing, and I think about myself and what somebody told me one time, said, because when I was 15, working at that summer camp, wrangling dude horses, the guy that I was working for, he played a guitar, and he had another guitar, and he said, hey, this is a G chord and this is a C chord, and hey, I can play Tom Dooley. That's amazing, But then somebody told me a while back, said, Richard, I don't know anybody that has played the guitar as long as you have played and improved as little as you have improved.
Oh, no.
I don't play much better now than when I was 15. if I'd have just practiced a little bit, Devin, I'd be a smoking hot guitar player. People would see me at an event. Richard, did you bring your guitar? Nobody ever asked me that because
They might now.
No, yeah, because I'm no good because I just didn't put in the time.
Yeah.
And I see some people, and everybody's goals are different, and so I don't want to be too harsh in this, but there are like clinic groupies out there, whether they show up at my clinic or somebody else's clinic, and they'll follow a guy around and go to a lot of clinics, but you see them next year compared to last year, they're the same. They're there, they're putting in the time, but it doesn't seem like they're moving the needle.
Sure.
I don't know if they don't realize, don't understand. They're just in it for the social aspect. I don't know what the reason is, but if I'm going to put in this kind of time and effort and money, I want to have a plan to get better. You know, it can be a short-term goal, just be a little thing.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable loping, but listen, by Christmas time, I want to be comfortable loping. I cannot get this sucker to pick up the right lead. What do I need to do? Do I need to go find some help? How are we going to work on this? Whatever it might be. This is a journey, and so it's a little sad for me to see people on the journey, but they're just parked on the side of the road. I mean, they're on the road.
That's good.
But we're heading towards the destination. Now, I realize we're never going to get there.
Right.
There is no, oh, I've made it now. It's just a continual.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I told somebody, you might as well enjoy the journey because you're never going to get to the destination. But I would encourage people to set some short-term and or long-term goals to, hey, let's get somewhere with our horses. So you got to go out and ride them, and let's get a little better. Our horses deserve it. You know, the miscommunication that they have to put up with, the mixed signals that they deal with us from time to time. They just deserve so much better. If we could work on our leadership skills and present things in a way that they can understand. It's like, hey, we are making progress here, and it's available to everyone.
Yeah. That's good. I appreciate that. Time is going to pass anyway. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
might as well
you
make
bet.
the best of it. And now I have Hang Down Your Head, Tom Dooley stuck in my head. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for not asking me to sing a couple lines of
Did
it.
you bring your guitar?
No, I did not.
Well, dang
no,
it.
just flat out of luck. Oh,
No, I appreciate that wisdom so much. This has been such a privilege to chat today. Thank you for taking the time. Like I said, I've never done a live podcast before, and do it with Mr. Winters at the Run for a Million in the Buckeye Nutrition booth. What a cool opportunity. If folks are interested in finding you at a clinic or learning more about your training philosophy, where can they find out more information about you?
You bet. Well, I think my wife has us on Facebook at Richard Winters Horsemanship, and wintersranch.com has more information about Richard Winters than you ever would probably care to digest. But reach out to us anytime. Always happy to talk with people about their horses. And let me just say to you, Devin, as we were getting ready for this podcast, did a little research on you. So impressed with what you are doing and some of the interviews that you're putting together, some of the topics that you're covering. And so keep up the good work. We'll be excited to watch your journey as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate that, Mr. Winters. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, those of you that are here live. And if you're not here live, then you're going to hear this later out on the Westward podcast.